Welcome to Grace at the Fray, a podcast that explores the many dimensions of God's grace that we find at the frayed edges of life. Come explore how God's grace works to renew your life and send you on mission in His kingdom. Hello, beloved. Welcome. Welcome to Grace at the Fray. One of the things I love about doing this podcast is that I get to tell stories of grace from the world of Surge that I think are a blessing for your world, because we are all in this together. And sharing stories of the myriad of ways God meets us at the frayed edges of life is how we can spur one another on. So today I want to share with you a conversation I had with Derek and Lauren Weber. They live on a medical compound in Chogoria, Kenya, at the base of Mount Kenya. And this conversation is full of stories of what it looks like to build a Jesus-style community in a multi-ethnic context. The question that continually surrounds this conversation is, what does it take for folks to live together in harmony with one another? And that's the question that we can all ask. How can we live in peace and mutual blessing with one another? And it reminds me of Psalm 133. And as I read it, and only if you're able, close your eyes and try to picture what is happening in this psalm. How very good and pleasant it is when kindred live together in unity. It's like the precious oil on the head, running down upon the beard of Aaron, running down over the collar of his robes. It's like the dew of Mount Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord ordained his blessing, life forevermore. This psalm is packed with symbolism and imagery, and here are the key words. Think priestly intercession. A priest gathers up the praises of God's people and presents them to God, and then takes the blessings of God and dishes them out to a needy world. When folks live together in harmony, it brings blessing and healing to the world. The blessing isn't the unity is the blessing. Or maybe the Spirit weaves all of these things together on earth as it is in heaven. Now, I say all of this to prep you for the conversation because Derek and Lauren are working out what it looks like to be a blessing to the world around them by pursuing unity and harmony and shalom. And as they tell their story, you'll see that the only way to be that kind of priestly blessing is to follow Jesus through humility and honesty and suffering, so that his resurrection power is made manifest in some really surprising ways. So let's learn together how to live in harmony. Well, Lauren, Derek, welcome to Grace at the Fray. Thank you for dropping by.
Thank you.
The home office. Mm-hmm. So you're heading back to Chogoria.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Tell me everything about Chogoria, and then tell me how you guys got there.
Sure.
Excellent. Well, Chogoria is located in Kenya. It's within East Africa, and it's about in the middle of the country at the base of Mount Kenya. So it's on the eastern side of Mount Kenya in the foothills. On the rain shadow side, so it's a little bit like a rainforest in which we live
interesting.
We live and work at the PCEA, Presbyterian Church of East Africa Mission Hospital there. Derek is a physician assistant and works in the emergency department. They call it the casualty department there. But he also does a lot of training.
I wear a lot of other hats.
At
the hospital. So
yeah, does a lot of training both in medical procedures and things like that, but also works alongside our hospital chaplains who are at the front lines of bringing the gospel to the bedside, praying with every single patient in the hospital and their family, which, as you can imagine, can be a very taxing and draining job at times. So Derek works alongside them, the goal of breathing life into them and collaborating on how to best minister to patients and families in the hospital. And then he's also the missionary liaison, so represents the missionary community in partnership with our hospital leaders. Yeah.
I know a few things about you from the prayer meeting, that y'all have been married almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years,
and that you've been with Surge for
10.
For 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I was a missionary in Central America with another organization for a number of years, and that's where I met my wife.
Yep.
And we had a long-distance relationship for about 3 years, with me serving in missions down in Central America and my wife back here going to school.
So you visited?
Yeah. Yeah, I came down to be a camp nurse at the summer camp that he was leading, while I was in nursing school. And it's a story to that, but it's for another day. Another day,
it's a romantic story. That's what it is.
Yep, God wrote that story. So we wrote letters back and forth for 3 years. At the end of that, he proposed and came off the field 6 months later for us to get married. And then he went back to school at that point in time, shifted focus from church work to then doing medical training.
In medical missions is where our desire was, you can combine the mercy ministry, you can combine the gospel and word and deed, and so we did a lot of discipleship when I was in Central America, and so we continued to add to that the medical component.
Okay.
And then really within a month after graduation, we were doing a site visit in Uganda.
Okay.
And so the idea, the call, the desire was to be able to finish up, take as little amount of time as what is needed here in the States for boards, for experience, and then to be able to serve internationally.
Mm-hmm. So we got plugged into the Bonabugio team. So we went on a site visit there.
To join the Surge team in Bundabugyo.
To join the Surge team in Bonabugio. Travis and Amy Johnson were team leaders there and really hit it off with them. Derek found out, I think, that you passed your boards
when we were there.
While we were there.
Nice. Hey, congrats. I'm a little late, but congratulations are always in order.
And I distinctly remember you asking Travis,
how many years should I work in America before coming to be a missionary? Since this is my first, I was already in my 30s. Do I need to work a few years? What does that look like? And he said, you know what?
Just come. It's like, they're not going to teach you anything that you're going to need to know doing bush medicine.
You can't learn here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we started on the support raising process, and then we went to check in with Travis and Amy. They were back in the States on home assignment just a few months before going back to Uganda, before we deployed for Uganda. And we literally arrived at their house to spend the night with them the day that he found out he had cancer.
Oh, you were there the
day.
Wow.
Like, family was showing up for them to share the news, like, while we were there.
Wow.
So that was a that was a blow. We're like, what is about to happen?
And at that point, nobody knows what that's going to entail with a diagnosis like that.
Right.
And
so we delayed by a few months arriving to Uganda, and during that time, I think there was
a crisis in the DRC because Bundabuji was literally like 6 to 8 kilometers from the border, and so a crisis over there causes refugees to come to Uganda.
Thousands.
Yeah, so they had I think around 60,000, 66,000 refugees come in. And so it was overwhelming for the entire team. Yeah.
So we delayed by a few months and returned with our new team leaders at that time.
In the fall.
The Stevens, in the fall, yes. And talk about grace at the fray.
Yes.
There was a lot of fray.
A lot of fray.
And a lot of grace to go around. But the whole team, it was just grieving. Of course, the team that had done life in Bonabugio with Travis and Amy were just grieving to a level that we couldn't even go to. So that was a challenging season for everyone. It's not ideal to enter the field in grief. But that was the story that God wrote for us, was to enter in a place of brokenness. And it was a lot. It was a lot in the first couple of years. And it kind of culminated, and we ended up after blow upon blow upon blow, we ended up having a miscarriage that really was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, we got to get out of here. we gotta go get some help. We got to. We need life breathed back into us. Somebody put the oxygen mask on, or this ship is gonna sink.
Right.
You know?
I appreciate the member care department was like, you know what? You guys need to have a debrief. You need to have some time
to regroup.
And from this time of debrief and from this time of regrouping, came the idea, hey, why don't you take a year to do an internship at a mission hospital outside of Bonabugio? It's still in the East Africa region. Have some time of mentorship, have some time of understanding how this medical system in East Africa really works. And so that was the series of events that led us to go to Chogoria for a year. In 2016, we arrived in Kenya. We arrived to Chogoria with a newborn and 2 kids in tow, and that was going to be starting a year of interning at the hospital, rotating through the departments of the hospital, getting a good broad strokes.
Getting the mentorship that we had hoped to get at the beginning, and then
halfway through that, or a little bit more than halfway through that, we had one of these company-wide conferences where we all got together and we saw our team, and they're like, "You guys are doing really good. Tell us about what's going on."
Yeah.
And through a series of conversations, they're like, why don't you pray about, take some time. Is this a better fit for you guys?
Yeah.
Interesting. So
yeah,
I think that's beautiful because, you know, you guys both work in the medical field, and you found yourself going to work at a hospital, and that's where you found healing.
Yeah.
You know, all the healing
turn the tables.
that you're in need of, and then it just like works really well for you, and so you've been there for 7 years now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was something that we were not expecting. We were Bonabugio or bust. You know, we were in that category, and little did we know that through God's providence, He wanted to change that up. He wanted to bring us to the place of where we saw tremendous need, tremendous suffering. We experienced the end of our own personal rope, if you will, so that we can see that it's not about us and what we can do, but it's about what the Lord can do through a willing vessel.
Yeah. What He's already doing.
Yeah.
He's already doing. He was already in Bonabugio long before us, and is still there doing amazing things.
Right.
And same thing with Chogoria. I mean, it's just a privilege to be a witness to what he is doing.
I must confess, when I was a kid, you know, I grew up in the church. You know, like a missionary would come and visit, and they would always be a doctor in Africa. You know, and that's what. So like, so you guys from in my 8-year-old Jim imagination are like, oh, so these are real missionaries. you know, like that. You know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
That there's a sense in which there's this sentimentality or romanticism about go be a missionary in Africa, and I appreciate that. There's a lot of things about y'all's story that dismantles that the ideas that this is like the pinnacle of, you know, I don't know. It's a silly thing. And well, from my story, it worked its way all the way until I kind of had this idea that, well, for me to be the best Christian I could be, I got to become a missionary, you know. And Jesus promptly broke me on the mission field because, you know, that's the saying that we always being on the mission field is like pouring Miracle Grow on your sin.
Yes,
you know.
Absolutely.
And so paint me a picture of how actually it's just a normal life in desperation. You know, maybe one of the differences is that you have put yourself in places where you are more desperate, or, you know, I don't know. Well, de-romanticize it for me.
You know, it's interesting. The thing that I've always said about missionary work is, if you're not doing it in America or whatever community you're in, before you go, you're not going to do it when you get there.
That's good.
And so, if you're involved in your home church, and you're passionate about making sure that people know the gospel where you're at, that's a great starting point.
Yeah.
For being able to go cross-culturally or internationally or whatever. And so, we were certainly involved where we were at in our church back in the States, and so that's what we're continuing to do. The common graces that we receive in the U.S. at our jobs and school, doing education, are the same graces we draw upon when we're serving internationally. Getting up and going to the hospital, like in any sort of mercy ministry, we don't know what's going to come in that day. And I work in an emergency department. Could be someone who has a belly pain, could be someone who has been involved in a road traffic accident. And so, so the grace that we call upon God to help us treating both of these type of patients, and doing that with the hope of investing in the next generation of Kenyan medical leadership in the country. And so we love our brothers and sisters there. We love that opportunity to work alongside and see what God is going to do that day.
Well, my understanding is that it's actually that you work under national leadership.
Yes.
And so tell me what that's like, because that's a whole culture shift, especially in like a post-colonial, there's so much baggage, imperialism. I'm sure you have plenty of stories about how people are skittish about white folk coming over to bring their colonialistic, quote unquote, religion or whatever it may be. So what's that been like?
You show up as an American and you don't realize it. People just automatically have expectations of you. Assumptions about you. What your program is. What you are going to do. And you don't realize that. But we have realized it from our time in Bonabugio and then in Chogoria as well. And we realized early on, we are like to be co-pilots. Partnered with a national leader who is steering the ship and really can grasp the cultural piece, the cultural aspect of what is God doing here and where does he want to take this ministry. So one thing that we've seen Americans do in the past is have a really great idea and then come try to implement it, and it just crash and burn.
Yeah, because it's not contextualized at all.
I mean, I distinctly remember like sitting down to write a newsletter and looking at Derek and being like, all right, babe, hadn't written a newsletter in 3 months. What's the best thing that's happened at the hospital in 3 months? And he's thinking, he's like, you know what? I got a table moved from the front of casualty to the back of casualty. We moved the table, and it's taken 3 months. Like, had to get approval from committees, and they had to vote on it. Are we going to move the table? And then there had to be a process in place for this to happen.
It's working within the system that already exists.
Yes.
And it's saying, I'm not going to step over the current system. That would be very, very American.
Yeah.
To just say, you know what, I got
We're going to move the table together.
Guns a-blazing. I see a better, more efficient system, and I'm going to implement it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to, move this table. I'm going to move something, and I don't really care who that's going to interrupt their flow, because I think this is a more efficient flow. And so the idea is, if I'm going to partner with my Kenyan colleagues, if I'm going to show that I love them, then I'm going to ask them, how can I go about this? And so it's about the relationship. It's about finding out what is their preference, so that we can be able to come together. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go, I'm probably not going to remember it exactly. If you want to go far, you go alone.
If you want to go fast,
you go alone.
Yes, if you want to go far, you go together.
Yeah.
And that is a wonderful proverb that really sums it up. And it's like, if we want to get a goal of sharing the gospel, then we need to go together. And how do we learn how to go together? And it's not going to be stepping over you. It's not going to be stepping on you. It's going to be coming together.
One of the coolest things that we've been able to do in Chogoria is when we've done the Gospel-Centered Life Bible study together with our Kenyan colleagues, and going through just what a gospel-centered community looks like, and getting their understanding of what does gospel-centered living look like together in a multi-ethnic community in which we are working and living alongside each other. And like you said, just getting that rub on a daily basis. How do we submit and love to one another and stay bound in the gospel? And it's been one of the greatest things that we have done that's been transformative in our community. It's given us language to use as we build a community that's anchored in the gospel and moving forward together, not as American and Kenyan, but as brothers and sisters in Christ.
Yeah. Y'all have used the word that you live on a compound.
Yeah.
So what does that even mean?
Yeah.
because when you talk about living life together, I got like Dietrich Bonhoeffer floating around in my mind.
Yeah. So in where we live, there's a compound for the hospital. So you can imagine, all the patients at the hospital, the clinics, the surgery, the wards, and everything like that is down at the hospital. And then apart from that, there is a fenced-in area in which all the doctors and missionaries tend to live and work.
Okay.
And so it's a large area, several acres, and there's about 22 individual family units. So that can be like a single physician up to a married physician without kids to
A large family.
A large family.
Yeah.
And so we all live together, whether it be single house structures or apartment complex.
Yeah.
And so we live up there. So our commute to work is coming outside your door, walking on the road that goes to the hospital, and you see your colleagues. So we're all walking down.
Kind of like
together.
catching the bus together.
Yeah.
Everybody walks down together,
Yeah.
And then the homeschool moms, all right, I'm sending my kid to your house. Yours are coming over here. They're going to do math and they're going to do language arts. And then in an hour, we're going to swap. And and what's been cool is, you walk down with your Kenyan colleagues, and some of the Kenyan moms have started homeschooling as well. So we're also rubbing shoulders with our Kenyan families, our American families. It's very integrated together of doing life with one another.
One of the interesting things is we've all seen a Venn diagram where the circles kind of tend to overlap a little bit, right? And so if we segment, very much Americans would like to segment our life. This is my work life. This is my church life. This is my family. These are my friends. And those four circles, they tend to overlap a little bit. You might have somebody who you go to work with that you're also as your friend, or you play cards together or something. Where we live, we have one circle and everything is in it.
Yeah.
And so our Venn diagram is basically a circle.
Right.
Rather than multiple circles, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's more than just your neighbor and you never know them. I can remember growing up. You know them when their dog barks or there's an issue that comes on the property line or whatever, but not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The architecture of community is different. So the struggles of conflict and conflict resolution are very evident, and if we want to continue without this destroying us, we're gonna have to work this out.
Yes.
Exactly.
Versus I'm just never gonna talk to that person again.
It's not possible.
And it's impossible. So the benefits of living in a community like that means you get to practice conflict resolution
A lot.
A lot.
How? So okay. So how? How do you resolve conflict?
Okay. Well, yeah.
Teach me.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm thinking of a story. I wasn't involved in this situation, so I can talk about it.
A friend, not me. A friend.
Yeah, a friend, right. But no, I'm thinking of a story in which our chaplains had to get involved, and it involved sharing the gospel at the hospital. I think, Derek, you had admitted a patient one day, and then there was a visiting physician, and we love this guy. I mean, great guy loves the Lord, is on fire, wants people to know him, wants to see people brought into the kingdom. So he, I think, rounded after you admitted this patient, and clearly the guy was probably going to pass within a few days. Just diffuse cancer all
He
over.
had cancer all through his lungs and everything.
And of course, he wanted the guy to know the Lord, and needed to know that he had at least had an opportunity to accept the Lord, before passing. And so graciously shared the gospel with him on rounds, and just made sure that he understood the gospel message and had been introduced to Jesus. All the things that we would say are the right things you should do as an American.
As an American on a short-term mission trip.
Gotcha. Yep.
Right. And either the chaplains or the family came and found Derek later and was like, "What are you guys doing? This is terrible. This is a horrible thing. My son has stopped eating, and he's now in this deep depression, and he's not going to come out of this hole that he's been put in." And lo and behold, the way that we had been sharing the gospel with patients was totally wrong.
Culturally, you don't tell somebody they're going to die. Culturally, you don't give a diagnosis that way. How we would
It's opposite in America. How the clinician is obligated
Give it to me straight, doc.
to the patient. Yes, even we're legally bound to disclose things so that they understand and can make decisions. And it is not that way in Kenya.
Oh, fascinating.
You disclose to family members, and then the family decides what is important for the patient to know. And a lot of times, patients will be passing and not know
the full diagnosis or the full information and things like
yes. And so it had actually been perceived that in sharing this with the patient, that you were actually stealing his hope.
Oh, wow.
Taking the hope that he had as far as God's general grace of putting the hope of life in all of us, and that we had come in and taken that from him. And so now, and we've learned just the power that are in words, spoken words, from an African standpoint, from a Kenyan standpoint. Oh man, Derek has received some tongue lashings at work for stating clinically what the picture was, and you can't do that.
Oh.
You can't do that.
That's a great example.
And so
it really is. And luckily the instances where my Kenyan nurses or colleagues have pulled me aside and said, "Please don't ever say that. You can never say that to a patient." That's out of grace.
Right.
That's out of their love for me and working together. And so I appreciate when they've done that, because it's set me on the right track of knowing what to say, when to say it, how to communicate in another culture is far beyond just the words, but it's the way and the how and the meaning behind them that has helped me, which is why we're so passionate about talking to our short-term members and our ones who come and visit us about, okay, when you come here, realize these certain conversations, it's not that they're taboo, it's just that we need to go at them in a different direction than we would if we were in an American-based healthcare system. And that culture, which comes very natural to us, that we just shoot from the hip.
That's right. We're so agenda-driven that we forget about.
And I think as missionaries too, like you have this passion that and this just conviction that I need to be out there sharing the gospel with people, and that's a very good and right conviction. But when you are working in a collectivistic and indirect culture, the way you go about it is very important. And so we see in our role, a lot of it is, working hand in hand with those chaplains and with our Christian colleagues at the hospital. They're the ones that know the how to best minister
Yeah.
in this
They're the
context.
insiders.
Yeah.
You know, so we work in collaboration of, you know, we want to make sure that the gospel is presented, but we want to do it in a way.
This is so good. Okay, so you have this calling to go make disciples of all nations, you know, and you're an American. We're Americans here.
Yep.
Right.
And it's like, oh, get her done.
Yeah.
We got this, you know, and it reminds me of what mutual friends Jeremy and Angel,
Yeah.
the interview that I did with them last season
Yeah.
was just the importance of what does it look like to love these people,
Yeah.
and how them being where they were was teaching them how to love. Jesus was teaching them how to love the people more than their agenda, you know, whatever agenda that they might have. And then you have this value that you have in Trigoria of submitting yourself to the national leadership. That's a beautiful story of, oh no, this is actually how it works itself out.
Yeah.
This is where the rubber meets the road for how when they say, don't say that, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
even though everything in my bones is like, no, but this is, but you know, just you
And
become.
you realize you've probably said it 10 times before they've actually worked up the courage to say, please don't say that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So one thing that we have ingrained in people who come is that repentance has got to be a part of your language. You are going to be repenting every day in ways you don't even realize that you need to, but you need to.
yeah. And that's this is a tricky one. I love this story because it's so easy for us to be like, well, I'm not wrong. I want the dude to know Jesus. I'm not
Exactly.
wrong. And it's
Right.
like, no, you're wrong. You need just say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And start over because you're missing it. You're missing the person because of the way that you're approaching this, you know. And it really is. It's a paradigm shift.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And it's something that God has given us the ability to practice it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not something that comes normal. It doesn't come natural. It's fighting those instincts, those urges that we feel that this is the normal way in which I do something. We equate it to, you know, I am a right-handed. And so I write with my right hand. You know, I use my mouse for my computer, my right hand. But when I'm here, I'm using my left.
Oh, okay.
And so, can I do it? I'm not ambidextrous, but yet I can kind of manage. And so it's learning how to do something different, and then saying this is more contextual.
Oh, yeah, that's really good.
A great example that I'm thinking about of how the gospel goes forth in our community. You know, a few years ago, there was a new couple that had been within our community working at the hospital for about a year. And they were newly married. They integrated so well into our Bible study, into our culture book club that we were doing. They were at a life in our community. She got pregnant, and soon after had a flare up of a GI condition that she didn't realize was still an issue, and very, very quickly started spiraling and getting really, really sick. And she was admitted to our ICU. Every single one of our doctors at the hospital were involved in doing surgery and getting really expensive medicines to try to save her life to the very end, and she ended up passing.
Wow.
One of our colleagues.
One of our close colleagues, and it was a blow to our community, just grieving. And I remember just everybody that had been up the night before trying to save her life, walking from the hospital up to our compound to share with her family who had been staying in their house while she was sick, that she had passed. And the family, of course, was in grief. Our community was and grief. And so what traditionally, by Kenyan tradition, what would happen next is that her body would be taken to the family's ancestral land, and then they would receive family and friends from all over the country, kind of like a wake, but that would last a time of mourning that would last an entire week at the family's home. And they said, you know what, that needs to happen here. We have seen, as you guys have cared for her in her time of sickness, and we have, even before she was sick, knew that how you guys did life with one another and served our daughter and her husband, and have seen you come alongside us in grief. This is the place that it needs to happen. So it started a week-long process of welcoming family and friends from all over the country, serving chai around the clock, food around the clock, someone or people having to
service every
to
night.
Sit, yeah.
After we all get off work, to be able to go there and sit with the family and sing songs and speak words of encouragement to one another for 7 days.
Yeah. And grieve, and just grieve and grieve and grieve. Yeah, for 7 days, and it was so cathartic, and also just so healing. I think for us, for people outside of our community to see how we, as brothers and sisters, work together alongside each other in the ministry at the hospital, and that we don't do it perfectly, and that we don't always have good endings to the stories, but that we also grieve and enter into the brokenness with one another. We do it together. It really bound our community together, and gave us language for the hard work that you guys enter into on a daily basis, of entering into those stories of grief with people.
And it's not like we, as Westerners, as missionaries, really knew what we were doing. We were looking towards our Kenyan colleagues to be able to say, what do we do now? How can we best serve this family that we've all worked together for? And it didn't have the outcome that any of us wanted.
Yeah, nobody wanted that.
Nobody wanted that. And so how can we enter into the grief with one another? How can we serve them? And so they're like, we need to do it like this, and we need to do it like this, and we're like, yes. And it was a lot of work.
And it was a huge learning curve. Huge learning curve. A kind of a funny thing in that story is we would show up every night for worship and for sharing, and everybody's together, and our people won't be able to see this on the podcast, but our Kenyan brothers and sisters would periodically throughout the timer where they'd go like this.
They give us the eyebrows.
The eyebrows. What are the eyebrows?
Well,
right?
You know what? That's what I sat there.
The eyebrows.
What's the eyebrows mean?
What? What are you trying to tell me?
What else are we doing now?
And they're communicating with their eyebrows. Like, what is this? Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be doing something right now, and I don't know what it is.
Doing?
What am I not doing?
Yes.
And so out of that time, like we laugh and we still joke with our Kenyan colleagues, and it's so hilarious. It's such a picture of the difference in our cultures.
Yeah. Well, what does it mean?
It can mean anything.
Oh, no.
Look. Earlier this week, I asked my child something, and she gave me eyebrows.
Your child gave you the eyebrows?
Yeah. I mean, she's been in Kenyan class for like the whole year, and she's giving me the eyebrows. And the eyebrows! You're starting it! It's like this code. They know what they're communicating.
That's awesome.
When you're an insider, you know nonverbal communication. You know? And so it's like, like any sort of nonverbal communication. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but like that an insider knows to communicate to one another.
Yeah.
In that context, I think
clearly, after all these years, we're still not insiders.
We're still learning.
Throw it on the pile of things to submit yourself to this culture so that you can love them, not have an agenda for them.
Yes.
And all the way down to the eyebrows.
All the way down to the eyebrows.
Body and soul. Eyebrows.
And so it's humbling because you come home with stories of like, I cannot figure this out. But like everybody in the room knew what was going on. They were giving each other eyebrows. They knew what was going going on? I can't figure it out.
That's so
That's
funny.
when the next day you want to pull someone aside and say, so what was I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
I can remember we were going to go to an important event, and I was my cultural helper. He was going to be riding with me to the event, and he showed up at our house, and he says, "Weber." I said, "Yes." He's like, "Are you going to wear that?" I said, "Well, I was planning on it." And he's like,
You need to go
"You
change.
need to go and change." And I said, "Okay, tell me about what am I doing wrong? What do I need to add or whatnot?" And so he helped me by telling me the most appropriate thing to wear to this very important meeting that we were going to. So God bless him that he was able to speak to me in a way in which, because he's been
That you
around,
understood.
that I understood, because he knew Westerners. He knew that he needed to say, the clothes you're wearing is not appropriate. Like, you can't wear jeans to go see this guy. You got to put on this, you got to do this and whatnot. And luckily, I have another friend that was in Uganda. I have another friend in Kenya that does the same thing. He's like, you've been invited to this ceremony or graduation or whatever. He's like, what are you going to wear? And he's like, this is what you should wear. And I'm like, thank you so much.
Right.
You're the insider helping me to understand.
Yeah.
This is life together.
Yes.
The humility that is required
Right.
really is, that's what's remarkable, right? Because every one of those little eyebrow things or whatever kind of miscommunication or whatever failed expectation on the culture that you're serving, their part or your part, the table. I want to hear more about the table. Like,
It was a struggle.
It was a struggle. Right.
He just
It's-
wanted to move the table.
Yes, it's just, in the temptation to be like, in America, this never would have happened. Well,
Right.
actually, in America, the opportunity for this kind of humility and love never could have happened.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's forcing life to be rubbing shoulders in such a way where a table becomes a place, wanting to move a table
Yeah.
and having to work months to get a table moved is where Jesus makes you more like him.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So tell me more about the table. Like, how did you, no, don't tell me about the table. Tell me about your heart. And like, you come home and you're like, Lauren, what was it? How do you contend with Jesus about a table that is so easy to move, but it just won't move because
Yeah.
bureaucracy, whatever.
Yeah. Trying to enter into a conversation in which you want someone else to come up with the same plan that you have. That's how this began.
Well, and I mean, let's just lay it straight. Okay, the idol of efficiency.
Efficiency. That's what it is.
That's
that
what it was.
Americans have.
Yes.
Efficiency.
Efficiency is
Okay, I want this room to run in this way. I don't want patients to go to the back of the room and then see
and
this person.
stop me before they get back to that table.
Okay,
I
okay,
want
gotcha.
the efficiency
See-
to be prominent so that our blood pressure and all that sort of stuff, our triage can be done at the front of the hospital room as opposed to the back. And I don't want to be bothered by every single person coming back.
Gotcha.
So
Nailed it.
So
Get down to it. It's the
Yeah,
idol.
that's what it
like,
is.
I mean, in any conflict that you have, I mean, what is the
It's all about
idol
me.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
I am holding onto right
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
And
And it came from me just standing in our emergency department saying, man, every time I'm sitting here, I'm getting bugged. I'm getting bothered. My workday is being interrupted. And if I push this and if I arrange it this way, then my day will be probably more efficient. My
More
work-
productive, more, yeah.
And then at the end of the day, I am going to feel better about myself and my work because I have seen X many patients or been able to get this much done or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, it's just idols.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
idols.
And you follow the emotion, whatever the emotion might be, frustration, anger, short temper,
Again, we had...
Why?
Yeah, why? We had, again, a gracious friend, Kenyan friend, say to us, we didn't have all of these problems until you Americans showed up and showed us that we had these problems.
Oh.
Ouch.
Oh.
Ouch. Oh.
That was a
So the table's not a
Kenyan
problem for you guys. Y'all don't see it as a, okay, all right, y'all are cool. Or you're cool with the
Right,
table or with
right,
whatever
right.
the thing is.
Because you can substitute it for anything.
For anything.
else.
Yeah, anything.
I love these stories because they're just simple little stories, but they like reach into the depth of your soul and bring out, like you said, bring out the idolatry. Here's this little idol that you've been worshiping, the idol of efficiency, the idol of, well, even the idol of making the Great Commission an idol.
Yeah.
If it's not submitted to Jesus and with the patience of trusting the Spirit to guide you, if it, my favorite verse, I always say it, I don't know how many episodes of the podcast I've said it, is neither circumcision nor uncircumcision is of any value, but faith working itself out in love. So it's like neither the table being where it is, nor the table being moved to a more efficient place is of any value, but faith working itself out in love. Well, how do you know faith has worked itself out in love? Well, it's because my concern is not for myself anymore. It's for the other people around me. And the litmus test for love is are others experiencing the Jesus through me, or are they experiencing my agenda or whatever? So it's neither a table being here or a table being there. It's neither the understanding the eyebrows or not understanding the eyebrows that's of any value, but faith that's required to have a humility to go ask.
Yeah.
Hey, what am I doing? Am I loving you well? That's basically every little cultural conversation is, in your part, an attempt to love them better, to love folks better.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's hard.
Right.
Exactly. And when we think about how we've got immigrant populations here in America.
Okay. Yeah.
This is something people need to...
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to go across the world and say, this is my job, this is my role, this is what I've spent the last 10 years doing. But it's like... We've got people here in our own country.
That's right.
And we've got people in our churches and people in our stores and people.
And all the more important,
so it's
learning how to contextualize the gospel, seeing the person in front of you, and
as a person made by God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like how to be the Kenyan friend that has learned to speak your language and communicate. Learning to do that, being that kind of person.
Yes.
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are.
Can you be the kind of person that sees another person, and in this conversation it's all about cross-cultural communication, but can you be when I'm in the grocery store and I see someone who looks different from me and is not navigating the world it clearly looks like they're fumbling through something and they don't know. The large immigrant population could use someone who is humble and generous and not impatient and can't they just get their stuff together? Jeez, God, which is probably like my heart's normal reaction for this. But to have somebody that will walk in and go, hey, don't wear those pants.
Yeah, don't
you don't need to wear those pants. Here this, And it's not a lording it over. It's neither being a jerk in that way nor lording it over.
Yeah.
But this faith that works itself out in love. So when the Spirit goes, hey, do you see that person? Yeah. No one sees that person. Do you see them? Now you see them.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And the Spirit goes, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess I could go help them.
Right.
Help me.
Right.
And I think that's what's so important about the Gospels is it's Jesus going to the outsider to help them become the insider. And it's the exact same analogy. It's what Jesus has done.
Oh, that's so good. All right, one more story. Tell me one more story about how that, like leaning into that, Jesus has brought you joy. I was talking to a friend about how he said like a large percentage of her life is struggling through the condemnation of life, and a smaller percentage of life is like experiencing the joy of life. but then realizing that even that small percentage of when Jesus like reaches in and brings his joy, that's where it's like overwhelming. So where have you seen it, and how are you wrestling for it? How are you fighting for that?
I haven't mentioned anything about my homeschool work, which is 95% of what I do on a daily basis, and there is so much dying to self every single day, every day. There are so many idols. Just in homeschooling the kids that I have to die to on a daily basis, and most of it being, is my focus going to be on communicating the gospel to my children and discipling them in grace, or am I going to be concerned about the schedule, the calendar, and what needs to get done academically in order for them to check the boxes of where they need to be in this school year? Just this idol of productivity, and realizing that the greater work for me is in discipling my children. But it's messy. It's messy. But I just recently, like, we had some struggles with our kids, and we're packing up the house to come back on home assignment, and I'm packing up the kids' school books, and I'm realizing, didn't finish that, or didn't get this report done, or whatever. But I came across like a piece of paper that it was something already filled out that my kids had to fill out, or one of them did, that was like, what are you most grateful for, or whatever. And my daughter had written about that she was most grateful for the family that God had placed her in, and that she gets to do this life in Kenya, and what a blessing and a joy it is. I was like, all right, okay, Lord, okay, there's the joy.
Yeah.
There's the joy.
Yeah.
There's the joy that we are struggling, dying to self every day alongside one another. But those who I have been given to pour into, which are those in my home, first and foremost, are reaping the gifts that God promises in the Holy Spirit. And that to me felt like the Lord saying, well done, my good and faithful servant. Okay.
Yeah. I see
they
you.
are reaping
I see
the benefit. I see you. I see what you're doing, and I am working in them. And all this other stuff that you're over here worrying yourself about and feels really big, like, it's not big. It's not big. This is big. That the kingdom is going forth in their hearts.
Yeah.
That is the important thing, and that's what you need to be giving yourself to every day.
Yeah, and I love it how he like sneaks up on you. Jesus sneaks up on you, slides a piece of paper in front of you, and the Spirit's like, read it. And this joyful King who's like sneaking around, looking for ways to love you. Yeah. Looking for ways to show you that he sees you, that he sees your children, that your children, whether they are like excited to admit it in general, but in this specific moment, they were affirming that they feel loved by their mother and father, and they are joyful too.
Yeah.
What a gift.
And I think it's God saying, like, hey, I see your idol. I see it, and I'm not condemning you for it.
Yeah.
I'm not condemning you for it.
That's so good.
Like, I'm going to sneak around here and show you grace, and that it's okay. That the kingdom is going forth in your brokenness and your limp, and you're probably going to always carry this idol or other idols, as we always are. But in spite of that, I'm still at work.
And through that,
I'm still at work.
And literally through the schoolwork, the idol of schoolwork, Jesus is like,
here you go.
Oh, I love it.
I would say that the way that I see some of that worked out in like the hospital and in medicine, in the environment that I probably am in, when every healthcare professional wants to make sure that we're doing a good job for our patients. Every healthcare professional who is trying to invest in other people, in the next generation of medical professionals. There's a way in which you're teaching a subject and you're like, yeah, I think I got this. If you can teach something very well, then you're like, man, I do understand this. I'm doing pretty good. When you've nailed the diagnosis of what's going on with the patient, and you feel like, oh gosh, I am a pretty good. But when you see the people that we are investing in excel beyond you, an example of this, what I would say as an example, was when I teach a lot of resuscitation techniques in the hospital.
Like CPR stuff.
CPR, advanced cardiac life support, pediatric life support, and such. And so we talk about this. We go through these intensive courses that are 4 days and things like that. And I've had some Kenyan colleagues that came as interns in our hospital. And then they got great. They were working as clinicians. They went off and got more training. They came back. They're excited. They want to teach this course with me. And I'm like, this is excellent. And they can do a much better job at teaching than what I've taught them. And so with that, you're like, wow, they're doing fantastic. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It's not about how well I've done. It's not a reflection about me. It's a reflection about what is going on.
It's impossible for it to be about you
Exactly.
because they're better than you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it.
So we're talking about how to read EKGs. It's a bunch of squiggly lines on a piece of paper that represent the heart and this and that. And I'm talking till I'm blue in the face. And then they say, Weber, let me try. And I'm like, great, sure. And then there was like shaking their heads and nodding. And you're like, I'm just going to stand back here. You guys continue to go.
Oh, that's so good.
That brings joy when we can be able to see that those who we feel like we're invested in, wow, they're doing great. They're going far exceeding where we were. So I find joy in helping others succeed in that, and they can do it so much better in that context than even I can.
Oh, that's
fantastic.
That's amazing. Well, I feel like an hour isn't enough time. I do want to know, what are needs that the community has in terms of, like, if someone's listening, maybe they're in med school or nursing school, but if there's someone who might feel like the Lord's calling them, what are some needs in your particular community that might spark interest and give some direction to someone who's in general wants to do maybe medical missions, but what are some specific needs that y'all see? Maybe not just in the medical community, but in your community in general.
Yeah. For those who want to get their feet wet and discern if this might be something the Lord is calling them to. I will say, before graduating, a lot of medical schools will allow students to do international rotations. So we do have medical students come who are finishing up. They're in their last year of medical school, usually last semester, and they come for a month-long rotation or something, just to rotate through one of the wards in the hospital and kind of get a better idea and get a picture of what cross-cultural ministry looks like. And then there's also a program that's through Samaritan's Purse. It's called the post-residency program. That's for after they finish their
formal education,
their formal residency, that they can then be sent out to locations like Chagorria for two-year terms and see in a longer context, like, is this something that God's calling me to?
Yeah, and I would just encourage people to get involved in their local church because, like I said, I'm very much a firm believer. If you're not doing something now, it's a pipe dream to think that you're going to go to another country and start doing something different. So get plugged in, get serving where you're at now, whether that be
get involved in international ministry.
Exactly.
Like, start feeling this rub.
Start living in it. And when we first got married, I always talked, we're going to live a wartime mentality. And that was kind of misguided in the terminology.
Yeah.
But the idea is living with intention. Not intention, but living within the tension of how are you going to live now that's going to bring you outside your cultural context, bring you outside to those who are not insiders. Because that's what life should be about.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so good. Thank you so much for hanging out. This
is great.
It is a lot of fun to hear all these stories. So, man, I am lucky. So, yeah, thanks for coming by.
This has been a pleasure. It's been wonderful.
Come to Chagoria.
Yes.
Come
Ask me twice.
Chaglorious.
Yes.
Chaglorious.
Chaglorious, is that
That's what we call it.
That's what you call it?
Yes, it's true.
At the base of Mount Kenya. You
right.
take me hiking.
Yes.
Take you up the mountain.
Ask me twice. I'll be there. Let's go. Let's go. How beautiful it is when kindred live together in unity. It's like the precious oil on the head running down upon the beard of Aaron, running down over the collar of his robes. It's like the dew of Mount Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord ordained his blessing, life forevermore. Derek and Lauren are pursuing a Psalm 133 kind of existence, where unity in the Spirit brings blessing to the world. It's a beautiful picture of God's kingdom. Their story is kind of a parable. The kingdom of God is like a medical compound where God's children are so rooted in a community that they learn the culture and embrace and even love those folks unto kingdom life. Not removing the DNA of a community, but redeeming that DNA, healing it, literally healing it. It's the story of what the incarnation of Jesus would look like for a little community in modern-day Kenya. So what would the story of the incarnation of Jesus in your community look like? Where do you see opportunities today to be teachable and humble, to be curious and quick to help? Those are the places where kingdom blessing and healing can flow down like anointing oil. Those are the opportunities for you to be God's royal priest, to intercede on behalf of a broken world, to reveal the places where the Spirit is present, like the dew descending on Mount Hermon. May the Lord make this kind of shalom a reality in your life and in mine. And if you're listening to Derek and Lauren's story, longing to participate in that kind of community, maybe your first step is to explore communities like this by going on a short-term mission trip. I want you to go to surge.org and explore the page called Short-Term Teams. If you've never been on a 1 to 2 week cross-cultural ministry trip, or if it's been too long, like maybe that high school youth group trip you took years ago, we have lots of opportunities for you to investigate. The effectiveness of a short-term trip expands far beyond the scope of the 1 or 2 weeks that you spend overseas. Through serving cross-culturally, you'll re-encounter your own need for the gospel and bring a renewed vision and excitement for what the gospel can look like in your context. But if you've been on mission for a while and you've gotten beaten up while pursuing a Jesus-style community, and let's face it, one of the main reasons folks leave the mission field is because of relational conflict. Well, if that's where you're at, or if you're just burned out from ministry in general, I want to invite you to take the Mentored Sonship course. I love taking people through this course because we work together to recover the joy of your salvation. At its best, it's like a healing balm for the soul, as beautiful as Psalm 133. Or if that intimate style of doing slow-paced soul care isn't what you need, we offer a more fast-paced experience of the sonship material with our Gospel-Centered Life weekends. This is like a rejuvenating shot of gospel adrenaline for the soul, or a much-needed pit stop in the fast-paced ministry race that we so often find ourselves languishing in. Come find rest for your weary soul at the Gospel-Centered Life weekends. The next one is March 1 and 2 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Check out the show notes for links to all of these opportunities and more. Now, the last line of Psalm 133 says this: "The Lord has ordained his blessing, life forevermore." So as you go with this blessing to be a royal priesthood for a world in desperate need of generous friends. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to smile down on you. May the Lord be gracious to you and turn his bright eyes to you and give you his peace. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, life everlasting. Amen.